Thank you everyone so much for joining us today for yet another amazing webinar with LAPU. Today we are going to be talking about LAPU's full year journey with Nectar AI. We were one of the first campuses in the nation to put AI in every single classroom to improve both the teaching and learning experience. And we are so excited to have some of their folks in the room with us here today to walk us through how they did it, what it's been like working with Nectar AI, and just to showcase some of the amazing ways that they have used AI to improve so many different parts of the campus. So here with me today, I have George and Callista. Thank you guys so much for being here. Do you want to go through and do some quick intros?
Sure. You can go first.
Go right ahead, Callista.
You want me to go first? Okay.
You go first.
Hi, I'm Callista Dawson. I'm the Learning Experience Design Manager at LAPU. I manage our team of instructional designers and instructional media designers, and we really just have the mission of making the asynchronous online experience as fun and memorable and as engaging as possible.
I'm George Hanshaw, the Director of Digital Learning Solutions at Los Angeles Pacific University, and I've had the honor and pleasure to be working with Nectar now for over a year, and we've just had some amazing results. And fortunate enough to work in an organization that is legitimately student-centered, and they put the student first, and just love being a part of that. And Nectar's been a huge part of that journey in the past year.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you guys. Thanks, George. Thanks, Callista. That was an awesome intro. For those that don't know me, my name is Kavitta Ghai. I am the co-founder and CEO here at Nectar. And let's jump into it because I'm excited. We got some good stuff to share. So really quickly, we're just going to cover what we are going to go over in today's webinar. We did our introductions, and then we'll talk a little bit about the implementation and expansion, how LAPU put a Nectar AI course assistant in over 160 courses in under 6 weeks. Crazy, but they did a fantastic job. So we'll give you all the secrets of how they did it. And then how they customized it and really made Nectar AI their AI operating system for the entire campus, for students, faculty, staff, and administrators. And then we'll talk about the student response. So LAPU has published multiple peer-reviewed research studies over the last year to show the effects of Nectar AI across campus. The first one showing a 20% increase in GPA after just the first term of using it. So we'll dive into that, hear about the student experience and the impact that it's had on the campus, and then talk about their best practices and what they recommend for educators across the nation who are adopting AI right now in their course or in their campus. We'll give you all of the tips and tricks of how to do it in the best way possible. And then at the end, we'll leave some time for Q&A. So please feel free to ask your questions using the Q&A feature, and we will get to those. You can also put them in the chat, and we'll get back to you in there from our team. So right down there, you'll see that little Q&A button, and that's where you can start stacking your questions. First, before we get into it, I love to give just a little overview of who we are at Nectar, and then we'll do a quick demo so that we're all on the same page of what even is Nectar AI. But first, I like to take it back to the beginning of why we're even here in the first place. So my co-founder, Jordan, and I, we started Nectar 7 years ago when we were undergrad students at UC Santa Barbara. And for us, it was really born out of the frustration that we had with the classroom. And we said, instead of complaining, why don't we try to do something about it? And we worked for 2 years with UCSB's instructional design department to start building and developing Nectar and really understand what does it take to actually build an edtech tool that you can scale campus-wide, that every student and teacher gets true value out of, and it's not just adding work to anyone's plate. And I really believe that the work that we've done with campuses like LAPU and UCSB is the reason that we've built the successful tool that we have today. We owe all of the credit to the institutions who told us their pain points, told us exactly what's working and what's not working, and allowed us to build Nectar AI, which is your AI operating system for your campus. So Nectar AI allows you to build custom AI assistants that are trained on your course or campus data. So you can use any LLM out there and be able to train it on your data and have it be fully FERPA compliant. So that data is not being sent back to OpenAI or to Anthropic. It's staying just within your institution. And then you're even able to set guardrails around your AI assistants to say, I want you to help my students, but I never want you to give them the answer or write the essay for them. So it is a safe way to actually customize AI and put it into your classroom in a way that you feel actually comfortable with. So right here on the screen, you can see a little step-by-step process of how Nectar AI actually works. student goes in and they ask their AI assistant a question. It's going to then search through all of the information that you've uploaded from your LMS. This can be like your syllabus, your assignments, your lecture slides, and it's going to send back that contextual information to Nectar AI and the LLM. That can be like GPT-4o. And then it's going to deliver a customized response to the student based on the prompt that you've set. So I know that was a lot to go over. We're actually just going to show you what this actually looks like, and hopefully that clears up any questions that you might have about what are we talking about here. So I am going to hop over and share my screen right here. There we go. Can everyone see Nectar AI?
Yep.
Perfect. Awesome. So we are inside of our demo sandbox right now. You can think of this as a campus workspace. So one workspace per campus, and it's going to sync right in with your LMS. And so that's how we figure out, are you a student? Are you a teacher? And that's going to decide the roles and the permissions that you have. So on the left side, I can see all of my campus-wide assistants. And then beneath that, I can see the classes that I'm in right now. And those are the only course level assistants that I'll see, the ones that I'm registered for. So I have admin level permission, so I can actually go and see how to set up the assistant the way that a teacher would. So that's what we're going to do here, show you a little bit about how did we build this writing evaluator assistant for our English Lit class. So if I come right up here into the assistant settings, the first thing I can do is give it an avatar, a name. You can even personify it like LAPU has. And then you can actually give a little description down here so that students or whoever is using the AI assistant can see what is it actually for. So this one is a writing evaluator. This is to help students be able to get feedback on their essay based on the rubric so that they get their first pass of feedback from their writing evaluator. And it's not writing the essay for them, it's in the prompt. It's just helping guide them along the way. So once you've given it some of that general knowledge, you're going to come into the actual knowledge base. And this is where you're going to upload things like the rubric or anything that you've given assignment instructions on. And this basically tells the AI assistant, here's all the knowledge that you need to have about my course or about this specific topic or assignment. So when I give it the rubric, it now knows what is this assignment about that students are going to be asking. It can use the rubric to actually grade the papers that students are uploading and give them feedback in the chat. And so you can import this from the LMS, or you can just one by one upload whichever documents you like. And this can be any type of file. You can even throw a YouTube video in here if you want to. So really easy for you to take the material you already have for your course and upload it in here to train your assistant. And then you're going to come to the prompt section. And this is where you get to tell it exactly what it can and cannot do. So you don't have to build this from scratch. You can actually go into our prompt library and pick from one of these that we've already built for you. And then you can customize them further if you'd like to. And that's exactly what we did here. So in this prompt, you can see I've told the assistant exactly how I want it to behave, including the fact that at the end of the document, you're going to provide a brief summary that highlights their strengths, offers constructive criticism, maintains a warm tone. So you really can get detailed about how you want your assistant to behave with your students, and again, what it can and cannot do. Once you've done that, a couple more things. You can add some conversation starters to help students get started with the conversation with their assistant. Sometimes they get in there and don't know how to interact. So these are good little ways to prompt them in the right direction. And lastly, if you'd like to, you can also come in and switch the model that you're using. So we have all of the best models in here. We test them constantly. And so we're only adding the ones that we know work really well for educational purposes. And you can even adjust the temperature if you'd like to make the responses either more creative or more predictable. All right. And now we'll come right back out here and see how this works. So let's start with this one. Can you remind me what's on the rubric? And we'll give it a second to come up with an answer. If it wants to. There we go. All right. So it gives me a good overview of what's on the rubric. And I can even see the sources that it pulled from. So if I show sources and I click on this rubric, it'll actually show me the rubric itself. So this is a great way for students to be able to access resources easily and quickly so they're not getting a dozen emails saying, where's the rubric? I can't find it on Canvas. The AI assistant can help them with that as well. All right, so there's a couple other features that we'll breeze through here. You can always check out our YouTube channel for more in-depth evaluations of the different features. but students can also go in and see their chat history. So I can go back and see this is where I, started a conversation about my first draft. So I can pick up the conversation right where I left off. And I can also rename these or even export them. So this is great if you want to use Nectar AI as an actual assignment for your students. They can export these conversations and upload it as their assignment itself. And that way you can see the feedback that they've gotten on their paper or whatever they were working on. And this is just one example of the kinds of assistance that you can build with Nectar AI. As you can see here, these we've pulled are basically the best practices we've seen at different campuses, creating things like a lab assistant, a tutor, even things like a grant writer that staff and admin can use to fill out RFPs. So you really can get very creative with any type of assistant that you want to build and then provision it to the correct people on campus seeing it. And it makes it super easy to have all of your AI in one place. All right. So that's a basic overview of Nectar AI, and now you know how it works. So we're going to hop right back over here. And I think what I'd love to do is just jump right in and start asking you guys about how your year has been with Nectar AI. So it's now been a full year. We also just signed a renewal. We're very excited to spend another 3 years working with you all. So, what made you choose Nectar AI in the first place, and how has that decision aged for you?
Ooh, can I take that one? That's one of my favorite questions. So the bottom line is there were a couple other at that time when we were looking, there were a couple other options. But the responsiveness and how we engage together as a team, not as two separate entities, to make something right for the student is what won us over carte blanche because we had direct access to yourself, to Jordan, and we could have conversations because this was brand new to us. We literally did not know what we were doing, but we were determined to figure it out, right? Because we knew that AI and assistants were going to have a large impact on students. So the connection points that we had with yourself, Jordan, everybody on the staff as well. Ethan has been amazing. The data scientist guru has been amazing as well. But that's what brought us to Nectar because not only did it work really well, but we knew that it was always getting better. And it was getting better because of stuff we asked for. So that was huge for us.
That's awesome. Thank you for that. Callista, do you have anything you want to add there?
I was not part of the initial like finding and acquiring of Nectar, but as soon as I got introduced to the tool, I got excited about it. For all the same reasons George just said, like you guys
Mhm.
have been such great partners for us and our creativity level is really high. So it's always fun for us to find partners who are just as creative as we are so that we can quickly figure out ways to do the things that we've imagined.
And I'm curious, how did this compare to sort of the adoption of other edtech tools? Because you guys were able to get Nectar AI course assistants into 160 courses in under 6 weeks, which is kind of unheard of to adopt a tool campus wide that quickly and AI on top of it. So, how was that process and how was it different with Nectar versus other tools that allowed you to scale that quickly?
It was a lot of fun because we started with a pilot, right? We were
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, we need to see how this is going to work. And even before the pilot was over, the decision was made to move forward. But all of that, in order for us to do this in 6 weeks, we did a lot of pre-work, and because we had an academic VP who is Wayne Herman, who's an amazing, thoughtful person. He's a very futuristic, future thinking person. So he was fully behind it. That was incredibly important. And then we also had instructors, faculty who were champions of using AI and were leading conversations with everybody else. Because as you know, I mean, just a few years ago, the conversation wasn't about how should we, it was should we adopt anything like this. So we had conversations, the right people were having conversations early in the process. And of course, I was a part of that. Callista was a part of that. The entire DLS team was a part of that.
Oh, I think
Piloted
we got a
it
little frozen. There we go.
Oh,
and it worked. Oh, was I off?
you
Sorry.
froze for just a minute.
Yeah, you're all good.
So when we were actually able to start with a pilot, they we just needed to know if it worked as well as we thought it would. It did. So Mike and Ryan on our team had a plan already in place to be able to implement quickly. We didn't realize we were going to go from pilot to the very next term full implementation. That was that was off the chart. So my hats off to our Mike and Ryan and the rest of the tech team who made that happen really quickly. But
Yeah.
they did it because they had a plan. They downloaded all the components for our courses, uploaded each one into an individual Nectar, and connected it. It was that simple.
Yeah. So you guys had basically your instructional design team set up these course assistants on behalf of all of the faculty. And that I think is part of why it made it so smooth. It was like
Yes.
just a few folks who did it for the whole campus.
Yes, 100%. I don't think it would have gone nearly as fast if we were relying on the faculty to do it themselves. So that's one of the unique things that I love about LAPU is that our DLS team is so integrated into the development of everything that we are able to do projects like this where we can go from start to finish at lightning speed.
Mm-hmm. And what would you recommend to other campuses that are sort of looking at this and saying, whoa, I don't know how I would do this campus wide?
Iterate, iterate, iterate. So take on something small,
Start.
figure out how you can do it, and then just simply expand. Because if you're not using an agile framework for implementation, you're behind already.
Mm-hmm.
You need to be agile. You need to say, okay, this worked. Here's my minimum viable product. Which in the beginning for us it was a course assistant,
Mm-hmm.
and now a course assistant is the minimum product that we have.
Yeah.
We do so much more with it because just using that opened up our minds to what can be, and then have the assistant help you too. You know, you can
Mm-hmm.
ask the assistant questions because you literally have access to a FERPA compliant LLM.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you have the keys to the kingdom, right? You have the keys to the Ferrari. So take it for a drive. Don't let it sit in the garage.
Right.
Yeah, it's a great way of putting it. Callista,
Yeah,
anything you wanted to add there?
I echo all of those sentiments. It does definitely feel like having a Ferrari at our disposal.
and what
I'm
was
so
funny
glad.
when we started, we thought that we were doing great with the course assistant.
Yeah, that
Mm-hmm.
seemed so crazy.
And
Yeah.
now fast forward a year, that's the minimum viable product
Yeah.
right there. We
So
have
yeah,
active
walk me
learning.
through that. How what else did you guys expand to? Because again, we always see that schools will start with the course assistant and it's sort of a no-brainer, right? You guys replaced tutor.com. You said, okay, we're actually going to use this as sort of the personalized tutor for every student. And then how did the use cases expand from there?
Well, I can tackle that one a little bit. I kind of made some notes on what we're currently working on. Um, we've definitely been thinking about applications on all levels, so university, program, and course, and then tutoring, like you mentioned, outside of the course. But within the course, our current focus is active learning. So we're just kind of exploding like popcorn right now, all the different ways that we can bring new components to active learning using what we call Spark, but it's Nectar. And I was just telling Chloe the other day, like some of the feedback that we're getting on these courses, it's like the students don't even realize they're using AI. They just think
Mm-hmm.
they're interacting with a tool and they don't
Mm-hmm.
realize it's Nectar because to them, Nectar is just a course assistant. So that's been a really
Mm-hmm.
interesting development. But we're doing things like, I think probably the coolest one, in my opinion, is the think, pair, share discussions where they're having a discussion with the AI and then bringing their findings back to the course and sharing it with their peers. We're doing simulations, we're doing interactions. We also have a writing center Nectar assistant where they can go to figure out how to do correct APA citation, which is a big one for academic writing. Um, and then our psychology courses. We have a really amazing team working on our psychology program, and just the level of creativity is crazy. But we've got all of these different Nectar assistants now that are it's basically role play. So we've programmed different ones to be different types of clients in where they're learning a specific technique And so they have 3 or 4 different clients from different contexts where they can practice using those techniques in different ways. My favorite one is our motivational interviewing course, where they're using all their MI techniques on like a child or an employee of an organization or someone in an education setting, healthcare setting. And it's just really creative, and there's a variety of ways that they can apply their learning, and they're getting to practice it in a safe environment right within the course, and it's all asynchronous online.
Mm-hmm.
It's really cool.
I love that. And then we made the first what what we're calling an experience where the student learns the content so in this case it was psychology again. It was language acquisition device. Noam Chomsky is the psychologist who came up with it, right? Enough of that. But they get to have a conversation with Dr. Chomsky about language acquisition, and then they go into another experience where they actually apply it, and then their assignment is an application of it where they actually get feedback from Nectar, right, from the LLM on how they're doing implementing these different practices. And then the assignment is they're writing about that and how they would implement certain strategies and things and how they would work, would not work. So it's really deepening the level of learning.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
So everything was contained in that one in 3 Nectar assistants that we created.
Yeah.
It was super cool.
I want to share one more because one of my teammates just shared it with me this morning. Her name's Alyssa. She's working on, I think it's an astronomy course, and they're they're building a Nectar assistant right now that acts as Ptolemy, and it believes that the universe revolves around the Earth. And so the
Mm.
student has to take Galileo's research and convince the bot that the universe does not revolve around the Earth.
That is awesome.
Isn't that
That's so
cool?
cool.
Right?
I'm
Oh my
excited to
goodness.
see how that one plays out.
Yeah, I love that. And I'm curious, did you guys also, I know you've started using it for staff and admin as well. So how did that expansion happen?
Well, we have it in a few places. Well, and it's within the course design process from start to finish now. We've done what we call course design effectiveness index, where we've utilized machine learning and Nectar to come up with what's working, what's not working through our plethora, through our thousands of end of course surveys that we have.
Mm.
So it's doing the statistics, it's writing the summaries, it's letting us know where we need to be looking, what's working, what's not working. So as far as that goes within our own team and the academic team, now we know we're not just using markers like, okay, this course is 3 years old, we need to look at this. We're actually looking at the effectiveness of courses to say,
Mhm.
okay, we need to look here, and this is why. And then
Mm-hmm.
Nectar helps us get very defined whys in there, which is amazing through linear regression, through correlations, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's
That's awesome.
absolutely amazing that it's
So
doing that.
so basically you guys set up an assistant that was specifically to take all this data that you would upload to it and find the patterns and tell you, basically be like a data analyst for you.
Yeah.
And we wrote in well, I had help figuring out the statistics that we needed to put in, but gave it the direct, gave run the Kruskal-Wallis for this, and this, and then we can just rinse and repeat.
That's
And
awesome.
it's really told us where we need to focus, and it's right.
Mm.
And it would have been too hard for us to figure out manually.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
One of the other things I know we did was we partnered with our enrollment team, and we created a Nectar assistant that basically helps onboard our new enrollment
Mhm.
counselors. I want to say a year and a half ago, we were pulled into this because they were basically the road to onboarding was longer than they wanted it to be. And so they were strategizing with us on ways to bring that time down. And we just were able to identify, like, it was a very person heavy training program. And could we utilize AI to expedite that? And obviously the answer was yes, especially with Nectar. And so now a brand new enrollment counselor can learn everything they need to know from Nectar. They can still meet with their teammates. Obviously, they have team bonding and stuff to do on the person side. But as far as the actual training and day-to-day tasks, like all of that is housed inside of Nectar.
That's awesome. And so you guys basically started with like a onboarding, staff onboarding assistant and grew from there.
Mhm.
That's
Yeah,
awesome. Very, very
Re-
cool.
People need to really kind of, well, I should say George needed to detach and zoom out a little bit because I was thinking course assistant, course assistant. And then when I zoomed out, said, hey, I got a Ferrari, I got an LLM, it's connected to ChatGPT or Google or wherever I select. I just need to write prompts to make it do what I want.
Mm-hmm. And how is that
Um,
process of learning how to prompt it? I feel like on the surface, to educators, it can sometimes seem daunting of, wait, I have to go in there and tell it what to do. But did you find that it was easier than you thought, or was there a learning curve to it?
I found it to be way easier than what I thought. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that we can train it on our materials, right?
Mm.
So, for instance, the motivational interviewing assistants we made, our faculty member, our SME, she's written this handbook on motivational interviewing. It's something she wrote herself. We plugged that into Nectar and then told it, here's what we want you to do, here's the tone of voice we want you to use, and go. And it was really that easy.
That's awesome. I feel like it takes less prompting than you think. And then also you can always go back in there and iterate. So is
Yeah,
that something that was also part of
mhm.
the process is like seeing the feedback from it and then going in and adding more knowledge to the knowledge base, improving the prompt?
100%, especially with our psychology program. Like her name is Shannon. I'm just going to shout her out. Shannon is so fun to work with, and she is that
Yes, she
kind.
is.
She's that kind of expert who's going to go and she's going to test it as much as she can and try to break it, and then she'll come back and say, "Hey, it did this thing and it was weird. Can we make it not do that?" And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
"Yeah, let's do that." And it's been a really nice back and forth, working with some of our really talented subject matter experts.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And I'm curious to hear how has the response been from faculty, especially, setting up a course assistant on their behalf, putting it in their class. Was there any sort of pushback? And if there was, how did you respond to that? And how has their overall feedback been over the last year?
That's a great question because diffusion of innovation, right? We have our early adopters and then folks that just aren't going to adopt it, right?
Yep.
Uh, and everybody in between. And what's really nice is because we had faculty leading discussions, Joanna Vance, Craig Brewer were big advocates that were leading discussions on this. There was always going to be some pushback, but it was very minimal, and it
Mm-hmm.
was more curiosity than anything else, which was kind of nice. And then when people started seeing what it can help them with, that curiosity became, oh, okay, well, how about? And then it started to grow from there, and that was really amazing. So that was the vast majority of faculty members after those conversations happened. And
Mm-hmm.
then people have to know it's making you more effective at your job. It's
Mm-hmm.
not replacing you.
Right.
Yeah. So that's kind of a key thing that we had to reiterate several times. But that was it. And listen, I haven't heard many negatives from faculty. I've heard more curiosity than anything else.
Yeah, I would say the biggest challenge that we received, this was probably 6 months ago. We received I wouldn't call it a complaint, but just something that was noticed was that discussions were becoming a place where it was robots talking to robots.
Mm.
And that was honestly where the idea for the think, pair, share discussions came from, or the just bringing Nectar into the discussion forums and having students talk to AI in a way that we are condoning that so that they're less inclined to cheat, so to speak, or to rely on AI to provide them with the right things to say.
And can I piggyback on that for just a second? Because that's a great point. Because I had that conversation with uh, one of our faculty who taught history. And it wasn't that the Nectar assistant was giving people answers. Do we have the assistant, so it's Socratic in nature, talks people through stuff. But people were using Gen AI, their own accounts with whatever AI, getting what seemed to be responses, and then putting them in. And
Mm,
then that's why the faculty member felt that it was getting a bit robotic because the responses were real good. So it was from using AI outside of the course, not the Nectar within the
gotcha.
course.
Mm-hmm.
And by doing what Callista said, creating the think, pair, share, and things like that, where they engaged with Nectar, we removed that want to go to the external AI,
Mm,
where
mm-hmm.
they, like the MIT study that came out, where it's, in lack of a better word, dumbing down things because
Mm-hmm.
you're just copying and pasting. So we got rid of that want to go outside and to actually engage in
Mm-hmm.
the conversation. So that's kind of a critical piece.
Yeah, I would say that's a pretty critical highlight here is I think one of the biggest reasons to bring Nectar AI into the classroom is because it gives students the opportunity to still work with these great LLMs, these great models. They're still using, the same thing that's powering ChatGPT, but in here it's FERPA compliant. It has the guardrails. It's not going to destroy your critical thinking skills. So I'm curious, have you seen students come off of ChatGPT and Claude and to Nectar AI once they sort of see the light? Is that what you're hoping happens?
We've kind of forced it in a way, right, Calista?
Yeah, obviously there's no like hard stop on
Mm-hmm.
making people stop using those tools, especially if they've been using them a lot and they're comfortable with it. The likelihood of them completely walking away from those tools is low, but what we can do on our part is provide a safe environment and permission to use AI in ethical ways that will help them to learn. And it really falls to us to communicate that to them. This is why Nectar is the better choice. This is why we're providing you with this tool. And then the hope is that their response would be to use what we've provided in exchange for doing the alternative.
And think about this for a second. If we have an exercise where, let's say, they're writing something, AI is great at writing papers, right? It can do a fantastic job. But if you write your own paper, then submit to Nectar the way we have it set up, is then going to give you feedback on the specific paragraphs that you wrote, and not say, hey, do this, can I rewrite this for you? It's going to say, hey, this is what you did well. Think about da 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 da. So
Mm-hmm.
it's now engaging that student in that active learning, even in that feedback process. We're like, oh yeah, okay. Now I'm leaning into it. So we've set it up to where sometimes it's a requirement, like in the think, pair, share. So they're not going to go outside because it's required in there, and you can see the history and everything, right? But we've also made it in a way where it's helpful,
Mm-hmm.
and they can get, and when, just by them reading the feedback tidbits on each paragraph, they're growing just from that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's pretty cool how we kind of putting it in. So if you're passive about putting AI into your courses, you're going to lose.
Yeah.
You have to aggressively put it in so people want to connect with it, because
Mm-hmm.
the AI you put in is going to be helpful as opposed to, um, well, it's not harmful, but as opposed to slowing down your learning curve by just copying and pasting. So you
Mm-hmm.
have to be aggressive by putting it into your classroom.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think that what we're aiming for is an AI augmented educational experience, and we have to actually do a little bit of legwork to get it into the students' daily workflow, right? It's like getting them used to using the LMS. Even though it has all this value, you still have to get them to see the value enough times in the beginning to say, oh, okay, I'm going to keep coming back to this.
Yeah.
And I think that also comes alongside having these additional assistants, right? Having more than one in every course, having some campus wide ones. Students then start to see it as, oh, this is where I'm going to go to get sort of my 24/7 support hub.
Yeah. I
Right.
I can say too, in looking just at our more recent feedback that we have gotten from our course surveys, I'd say the responses are maybe around 50-50, where people love it or they still don't understand it or are still weary of using it, even though we're clearly giving them permission to use it.
Mm-hmm.
And so that just fuels me to
Mm.
communicate more and to provide them with more open doors, lowered bars for entry, um, finding creative ways to get them to want to at least try it out to see how
Mm-hmm.
much better the learning experience is. So it is not a given that providing the tool will result in adoption, and that is something that we can take upon ourselves as a challenge.
Yeah, I love that. And walk me through a little bit of the studies that you guys did, because I think that is sort of one of the crown jewels of the last year is how much amazing research came out of LAPU. And I really haven't seen, especially the sample size, be as large as LAPU study was of, campus wide saw a 7.5% increase in GPA, which is just amazing. So talk me through how did it feel getting those results from the first pilot to campus wide? Walk me through that.
Well, we've done a lot with the data, and a shout out to Ethan who help us figure some of this out so we wanted to triple check before we put anything out, and he was a huge help with that. And what we found was that students who engage with Nectar within our course had that 7.5% uh, better outcome score. So if instead of an 80, they had whatever 77.5% is of that greater. And I'm I'm going to make an argument right here too, because we've seen it in when we've done uh, our analysis on the qualitative stuff. They actually have a more concrete understanding of what they were studying as well because of the
Mm.
way they've been writing. We know that through statistics now, so we can see that very clearly. So we found that they have better grade outcomes and they have a stronger understanding, a more concrete understanding of how what they're learning applies to their daily life, and it's readily apparent. I mean, it's not like a small effect size; it's large. So we actually did one that covered the entire year as well, where we replicated the findings one more time with the outcomes and the concrete capabilities of what they're learning. So if you want to learn better, and when Callista brought up that we use active learning for the AI tools that we use, the Nectar tools, and they are similar results for active learning as well. So we're just piggybacking off of good learning there.
Yeah.
You know, we're not coming up with anything different, anything greater, but now we have a tool where we can do it asynchronously and online. And we're just seeing people just increasingly uh, have better outcomes. And then one more thing that we found is we were just looking through a bunch of the data yesterday, and we saw that instructors who have students who utilize AI more often, so that's marked in our end of course surveys. Did you use it? Yes or no? So the more students who use it, the better outcomes within their course
Mm,
and the better and the stronger concrete understanding of what they're studying as well. So it's kind of
that's
neat because
phenomenal.
we're not giving anybody answers where it's Socratic in nature. It's
Hmm.
asking questions and having good conversations. So it's pretty cool that that's turning out that way.
That's phenomenal. And it's really interesting to me that the numbers match almost exactly what we're seeing at other schools, other campuses as well. And I think it's really just proving that point. When you implement AI thoughtfully, when there are the right guardrails around it, it actually does lead to deeper critical thinking, deeper understanding of the material, and like you said, the ability to connect it to real life. And that's the whole point of college.
Yeah.
Right?
I was going through some of our like sentiment um, responses that we've gotten, and I pulled out a few that I thought were interesting, and I think this is a good place to plug them in. One of the things that I saw amongst all the responses were students are using them across multiple courses within their programs. We had one comment from a psychology course that said, I used Spark for my previous psychology class and I found it very insightful. So I'm looking forward to using it in the upcoming weeks of this course because I know it will be just as helpful. Another psych student said, I love how it helped me understand my first week assignment. I had no clue about this subject or even where to begin. And after chatting for just a few questions, I feel more at ease and able to complete my discussion for week one. So that's kind of the stuff that we're hearing back from students. Um, like collectively, our sentiment data is vastly neutral to positive. The number of negative sentiments is very, very, very small. And overall, the feedback that we're getting is saying it's encouraging, it's helpful, it's helping me get my assignments done. It's clearing up confusion that I had. And I think one of the reasons the students that are using it are having such positive experiences is because it is 24/7, and things that in a classroom might feel like a stupid question doesn't have to feel that way because there's not a human on the other side potentially judging them for their question. It is this neutral AI that is literally only interested in helping you.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And you know what's amazing about that is you mentioned the sentiment analysis. If you weren't able to do that before, well, now you have Nectar. You can do a sentiment analysis now. You can tell what type of sentiment analysis you want, give it the spreadsheet, tell it which column to look at, and it will give you that analysis. And then you can ask questions about it. So you don't have to be a statistician to know or to get good data from.
Yeah. And I love that you guys keep pulling back to if you don't know what to do, go back to Nectar. You can create an assistant that literally tells you, how do I scale AI across the campus? How
Yeah,
do I do an analysis on this data? Like
true.
it really can do everything. And I think that's the part that is like sometimes hard to wrap your mind around for folks that are maybe looking at this for the first time is can it really do all of those things in one tool?
Mhm.
Yeah, it's crazy. I know it sounds insane. It really can.
It took us a while, right, Callista? At least it took me a while.
Well, I mean, we weren't thinking about it in those ways. We were really just looking at it as a course assistant tool. And once we started having conversations, like I know some of my early conversations with Chloe just made me kind of sit back in my chair and go, well, wait a second. Maybe I could do this.
Hmm.
Maybe I could do that. Like we're playing with it now as like a program level course design analysis tool. Does this program have learning gaps? Does it have
Hmm.
redundant resources? Does it have AI integrated throughout in ways that are meaningful for the future? Like it can tell us those things.
And what I love about that is that's just not George doing it or Callista doing it or Mike doing everybody on the team.
Yeah.
Yeah, just I mean that well, I want to say I was Canada that thought that up, right? That kind of thought how to use Nectar to
Yeah,
kind of help figure
she
that
came
out.
up with a prototype and we were just kind of
Yeah,
chatting through the things that we would like to be able to do. And she's like, I think I could make that work. She did it.
I can do that. Yeah, that's the real power. You've decentralized um, knowledge, right?
Exactly.
And skills and abilities. It's all decentralized now. People, it's amazing what people come up. If you're a leader in this space, give it to the team and then get out of their way.
Yeah.
Just get out
Great
of the way.
advice. Love it. Love that
Yeah.
advice. And you guys are right. You are very, very creative with it. So I do hope that the educators, administrators, staff listening to this hear these ideas and think, oh my God, I can do the same thing. Because, yeah, you absolutely can. The whole point of Nectar is to be able to build unlimited assistance across the campus because we know you're going to keep coming up with more and more creative use cases for where you want to place AI or just get a little bit of extra help, whether that's for the student, the teacher, the staff, or the admin. And that is exactly what Nectar is built for to do it all in one place because it should be that easy and it should be affordable rather than buying 10 different point solutions. You should be able to do it all in one place. So I want to quickly highlight, George, you recently built a really cool assistant that was for grading. And I am so curious to get your thoughts on it. Sort of how did you think about that? How has it been working for you? Was it better than you thought? And also, how are you grappling with, kind of giving the first pass to AI and then giving it back to the teacher?
Well, and this is all in work right now. This is real time stuff, right? And I love it for the simple reason that if you're using AI to do your job better, is your responsibility. So
Mm-hmm.
we haven't outsourced any responsibility whatsoever, right? So that first pass with AI gives the instructor more time to give better contextual feedback. Where we know from all the studies out there that students like the hybrid feedback, faculty and AI, AI for the grammar, the APA, and some contextual stuff. But then the instructor can put in their expertise and experience. So it's actually, I talked with Craig, who's piloting, playing with it right now, trying to figure it out. And it's really given us a greater opportunity to step back and give better feedback
Mm-hmm.
because we're spending less time on the what I always call the nitpicky stuff. That comma's in the wrong place. Let's fix that. And we can zoom out. We can look at the contextual and the content that's there and give our experiential feedback. And I'm even able to tell more stories when I give feedback. So I have a lot of fun because I can use video, tell a story about, whatever they're building.
Mm-hmm.
So it's helping us get better at what we do. And this is really we're still at the starting line. I think we've taken that first sprint off,
Mm-hmm.
and we'll let you know how it goes from there. And one of the key things, if I can, I don't want to talk too much, but uh, when we designed it, you design it for the rigor of whatever course. So if you're designing for a master's degree course, design it to use the rigor of, second year graduate level course or
Mm-hmm.
the 100 level course, beginning uh, a first year psychology student in a 100 level course. So it
Mm-hmm.
sets the rigor as well. So you don't have these big spikes of who believes what rigor is what that we have when we look at each other as faculty members. We have a lot of differences in how we see that rigor where the AI says, okay, it goes out, this is rigor for 100 level and it hits it every time. So it's
Mm-hmm.
kind of interesting.
I am very curious to see how this evolves and also curious to see if there's any pushback from faculty who feel like, I should be the one who controls grading. Do you anticipate that happening?
They do control grading.
Yeah.
You're not giving the control away. It's like, yeah, good point. You do. So if the AI gives you something that's not right, that's not AI's fault, it's your fault. You're
Mm-hmm.
supposed to be looking at it and then adjusting the feedback. It's not just do it, get it, and post it.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be fully engaged in what that feedback is. So yeah, you're right. It is your responsibility to grade.
I think
So
it would
great.
be a totally different conversation if the AI portion of it was automated and the grades
Mm-hmm.
were just posting. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But because it's giving, like George described it, a passover to the faculty, they can then choose whether or not they agree with the assessment of the AI. But if
Mm-hmm.
they do, they just cut hours out of their grading time.
Right.
And
Exactly.
we're doing a full study on this with the academic team. Wayne Herman, our academic VP, is leading the way on that because it is a very thorny issue.
Yeah.
So
Mm-hmm.
we're not just diving in, you know, but we're not asking anybody to throw us into the briar patch. We're taking our time moving into that one, so it's very clear on what's happening because we don't want anybody to think that AI is doing all the grading, and we
Mm-hmm.
don't want anybody to think that when it does do the grading, it's going to replace you because that's
Right.
not what it's about.
Mm-hmm.
We're partners. We're not there. Like
Yeah.
what NVIDIA president, what do you say? AI is not going to replace you, but somebody who uses AI will.
Yeah.
Gotta go back to that one.
Yeah.
Exactly. So we have a question from the chat, and I think this is a great one to ask you guys. Did you guys conduct any AI literacy training with your faculty or your students before implementation?
I know we created videos that were very explanatory. We did webinars on our side,
Mm-hmm.
just dealing with the Q&As, the FAQs, and all of the things we could think of that people would have questions about. But to be honest, Using Nectar is really easy. It doesn't require a whole lot of onboarding. It's
Good. I'm
very
glad.
self-explanatory. The hardest part is getting people to open it.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Always.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's super interesting because we had conversations and dialogue before. And when it comes to using it, everybody thought we were going to need all this training and such. But when you open up your banking app and you're using AI in there and you don't even know it, did anybody train you to do that? No, nobody did.
Yep.
When you're looking and seeing all those, monthly charges that happen every month, Netflix, Amazon, all that stuff, right? No, nobody taught anybody how to look at that list. So it's
Mm-hmm.
kind of along the same lines. We did have some as far as to get it out in front of people so they
Mm-hmm.
knew what it was.
Right.
That was the biggest challenge.
Yeah.
Introducing the tool was really our
Yeah.
focus.
Mm-hmm.
And the
And how
question
did you do
now,
that? I know, George, you made a ton of videos. And so for anyone listening, you can go on LAPU's YouTube channel and see how they've presented Spark, which is what they call Nectar AI. But how was that process of getting people to open it for the first time?
I mean, yeah, the videos was the biggest time investment on our side. We also had um, automated like pop-up screens come up
Mm-hmm.
when you would log into our course portal. So students were seeing the invitation to use it in multiple places. And because it's in every course, we've got it at, at every week of the course. It's available. There's a button they can click that takes them right to it. And it has a little intro paragraph with the little Spark guy that we created as our
Mm-hmm.
personification of the AI tool. So there's lots and lots of invitations to interact with the tool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
like Callista said, the ones for the think, pair, share, and all that, they don't actually realize they're interacting with
Yeah.
artificial
Mm-hmm.
intelligence with Spark, but they are.
And I think that's the beauty of having it so embedded in the LMS and everything that you're using, having it personified, and really having LAPU as a campus say, you are allowed to use this. We got this for you. I think that's a really key piece of this is it has to come from the top and it has to be really in their face that this is campus sanctioned AI.
Yes.
You are allowed to use this. You should be
Mm.
using it. We're
Should.
paying for it for you guys.
We want
So
you to use
exactly. When it comes from this like unified message from the campus, I think that's really what gets students to embrace it the way that they have at LAPU.
Yeah. Bottom line for us, if you say you're student centered or you want equity in education and you're not using AI, then you're lying. You don't want that
Mm-hmm.
That's good.
because it is absolutely necessary.
I
It's
completely agree.
yeah, it's like taking my Toyota Prius to a Formula One race. It just ain't gonna happen. No matter what chip I put in that Prius, we're
Yep.
not doing Formula One speeds.
Well, and we were just having this conversation the other day. It's like it's that saying that you can't put the toothpaste back in the tube, right? AI is here.
Mm-hmm.
So the question isn't if we're going to use it, it's how we're going to use it. And it's not should we use it, it's we definitely should be using it. You know, so much has shifted in the sentiment towards AI just in 1 year since we implemented. When we first brought the tool on, there was still a very loud uh, conversation happening about the place of AI in higher ed, and we just had to make that choice. Like, we can see far enough into the future to know that if we don't start now, we're going to be 10 years behind in a
Yep.
year, you know?
Mhm.
Exactly. Yeah. Because that is exactly how fast it's moving.
It is. It's
Yeah.
it's almost scary how fast it's moving because I
Yeah.
feel like we try to be on the cutting edge, or as George likes to call it, the bleeding edge of
Bleeding edge.
innovation. And that moving target is becoming harder and harder to stay there. And
Mm-hmm.
so you can't waste time anymore deliberating over whether or not we should do this. It's more
Yeah.
how are we going to do it?
Exactly. And so I think that's the perfect wrap up with the last few minutes that we have to ask the question, which is a little bit self serving, but I've got to do it, which is now that we're at this pivotal moment where it's not an option, schools have to be adopting AI. Why would you recommend to institutions to choose Nectar AI?
I tackle that one first
Yeah.
because you have a fully customizable whatever you want.
Yeah.
That is the bottom line. We looked at several others and you don't have as much control. Where with Nectar we have an incredible amount of control where the only thing that is slowing us down is our own imagination. So we literally have sessions where we just dream
Mhm.
about stuff, which is absolutely fun. And then somebody goes out and does it, right? So that would be why I would say you should definitely go with Nectar because you have the ability to make what you want, not what a company wants you to have, but
Mm-hmm.
what you want for your students. And we're incredibly student centered. So we're always thinking about what does a student want? How can they learn better? How can we help them more? So we use adult learning theory rather than pedagogy. I always work with everybody, but yeah, the customizability and the ability to connect and communicate is 100% why.
Thank you, George. Really appreciate that.
What do you think, Callista?
I would call Nectar a partner rather than a tool. I mean, every time I've had a question, I have been able to get in touch with someone who has either answers or interest enough to help me figure out how to create the solution. I mean, we are wanting to put the ability into our students' hands to create their own Nectar assistants for like a capstone course. And it wasn't quite working the way we needed it to. And so we just opened up that conversation with your team, and several people have now engaged with us to come up with solutions for that. And okay, well, what if we did permissions this way? What if we did it that way? And I'm like, yeah, let's try it. Let's do it. And I really feel like anything we want to make where we can figure out a way to do it because you guys are that engaged in this creative process with us.
Thank you. I'm so glad to hear that because that's exactly how I think it needs to be at this stage,
Yeah.
right? Whatever AI ed tech vendor that you're working with should really feel like a partner that is helping you figure out how to build your AI augmented campus. And that feedback that we get from you guys of, hey, this isn't working. We need an extra permission here. This button needs to move because no one's seeing it.
Yeah.
That's the stuff that is really actually important. And it's not just for LAPU. It gets amortized across the entire nation of everyone using Nectar AI. So we love the feedback that we get from you guys. You have been just an absolutely phenomenal partner to work with over the last year. We cannot wait to see what else you build and do with Nectar AI. I think it has just been a dream come true, to be honest, for me to be sitting here and see the improvement that it's had on LAPU's campus and the student body and the faculty as well. So I can't thank you guys enough for the time that you've shared with us, the feedback, everything that you've done over the last year, but especially being here today with us. I hope that this is an inspiration to all of the educators and the folks out there who are watching this thinking, oh man, it's my turn. Don't worry, we got you. Just like LAP, we will make sure that you have the exact same success at your campus. You're seeing it here firsthand. It is absolutely possible to do and faster than you think as well. So thank you, George. Thank you, Callista. You guys have been amazing, and I appreciate you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you, Kath.
Thanks, guys. All right. We'll talk to you all soon. Bye, everyone.